Climate change deniers are older. It's generational. So we're just going to have to...
But maybe global warming makes people cold. How to sell an idea to the right. What's the difference between a climate activist who preaches and a person making no impact on the global attitude about fossil fuels? Nothing. Climate change doesn't represent the existential threat to skeptics that it does to environmentally conscious people, which is why the concept can be so hard to swallow. The notion of the planet shaking us off like a bad cold doesn't exactly sink in when it feels like it's just another part of a whiny, bitchy package agenda that also includes anti-capitalism, drum circles, and Bernie fucking Sanders. If the objective of an opening discussion is increasing the appeal of an idea, sometimes going outside the typical arguments is nothing less than required. When it comes to climate change, it looks like the trenches on both sides are pretty deep. An overwhelming majority of climate scientists agree that it's happening, but this consensus is not reflected in the domestic population. So the conversation may have to assume the form of an invitation, rather than an adversarial joust where parroted talking points are easy to reach for. Throwing statistics at the other side hasn't really moved the post very far. In fact, it often elicits the so-called backfire effect. I want to present a brief look at other approaches. The first part of that is concession, in the places it can't be overlooked. In this case, a good place to meet someone in the conversation is the admission that humankind owes every significant technology invented in the last 100 years to products and use of crude oil. There's really no getting around it. Everything from Audis to zip ties would be nothing more than ideas without the stuff. To say the world is dependent on it is like saying Donald Trump likes to tweet. Here's the opportunity to replace "it's going to kill us all" with something a little tastier. One point you can use here is that our national dependence on a steady supply of crude oil makes us dependent on the nations who produce it. How does it make you feel as an American to know that Canada is our largest oil provider? And that each and every one of our daily lives would be noticeably affected if our oil exchange with them was disrupted. Or that Hugo Chavez was rich on oil money, and a lot of that came from us. Instead of ridiculing people with labels like deniers, hit them with this, and be nice about it. The most efficient internal combustion engines available today are no more than 20% efficient after more than a century of refinement. This means that for every 5 gallons of gasoline you put in your car, at least 4 of those gallons contribute in no way whatsoever to the car moving forward. All the energy from them is released in the cylinders and lost out the exhaust and through the engine block in the form of heat. The energy from that last gallon doesn't all make it to the wheels either. Every place in the car where moving parts meet between the crankshaft and the asphalt is a place a little more of that energy is lost. Looking at a macro level, Americans consume well over 300 million gallons of gas a day. So it's safe to say that 200 million gallons a day does nothing more than get burned and turned into carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, water, and heat, all of which go directly into the atmosphere. And we didn't even get into the energy that takes to get the gas out of the crude oil or the crude oil out of the ground. These points are appeals to the sentiments of shared guilt, nationalism, and plain old numbers, because this is the language of the intended audience. Making a mockery of someone else's beliefs and convictions gets climate awareness nowhere, but you already knew that. Everyone who's convinced of the science behind climate change doesn't need it explained, and everyone who isn't exactly open to hearing anything else after it's brought up in conversation. Look, the climate change conversation doesn't have to be like bumper stickers. You know, like delivering your unsolicited opinion to an audience not willing to hear it, then driving away. Wait, did you just stop on the gas? Ugh.